Hi, this is Lynn Schnebley with Educating with Wisdom, and I am the ambassador for Heaven's Creating and Protecting Goddesses and Archangels over life. We are looking at her seed, which is found both in Revelations and Genesis. We are also going back and taking a look at what is the arrena, or what is the arsenic. I'm wondering if Bible Hub just played another shenanigans. We're going to go take a peek at this. What's interested in Revelations is Bible Hub and the English translations have taken the Greek translation, even though it says her sperm, which is not her seed, and translated it into offspring. It's a different kind of thing. It shows the battle between sperm of the devil and sperm of the woman, which brings us back to the Adam and Eve story. The sperm of the woman, it's the X chromosome versus like the Y chromosome, or the reptilian brain chromosome, the dragon brain chromosome, the Greece, the what is it, Kekrops, the half dragon, half human being that teaches them about marriage and really leads them astray. It's a whole different thing. But let's come out of this, and I'll have to go into the YouTube video to show you, my YouTube channel, to show you where my other discussions are of this. What you're going to see is there is a very uncomfortable play, not just in many of the translations in the Hebrew, but most definitely in the translation of the Greek. And there's a more denigration of women. There's a great absence of women in the Bible, and it's highly misogynistic, but the Greek version is by far more misogynistic and more denigrating to women. So, with that in mind, let's come out of this with me. Now, I went back in today. I just went in we're going to use a different site than Bible Hub site, but there is no Bible Hub here, which is interesting. And when I did arrena in Greek, it doesn't really show us. And the Bible Hub didn't just come popping up the way it did the last time. Which was last night. And so maybe I'm missing something. It's not arrena. This is how it translates it. So let's say male in Greek. So we'll do translate male into Greek. There it is. Arcanos. Well, they did that the last time. And here's the adjective now. Okay. Male is now this, and they must have the other. There it is. Alrighty. And that is a noun. And let's see what Bible Hub did with it. We were last here. Where's Bible Hub? That came popping right up. Where is that? Well. I think they might be having a hard time with what they did, but we shall see. Nope. Notice Bible Hub went popping right up the last time, and it gave me that. Male into Greek. ARREN. Bible Hub. Strong's. Here we go. Now, we know, as I've showed you online with the others, that it was in fact arson that's there. They are saying where Aaron is, I've already said that this is the spring. It's related to the Aaron that was the Hittite goddess, and in the Hattian it's spring, waterfalls. But it is not male. And when you get down here into Revelations, they use arson. That word, that is not the, that is A-R-S-E-N, arsine. And it's not the A-P-P. I mean, it's not A-R-R for the Aaron. That would have been two P's, which, by the way, would be very uncommon in Greek. You don't have double consonants like that. So that is a non-Greek word. Let's come back now and look at the Revelations. This is a different Greek. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. What they actually did was actually change the wording, which is considered to be in the text of Revelations. They've made it clear that you can't change anything, and there's been a lot of changes made to Revelations. So it will not be forgiven them. And I've already said, the blasphemy to the Holy Spirit, they've already said. So they have sealed their own fates. I did not have to do this for them. Here we go. Woman and the Dragon, let's go right over to 5. Now it says son, male. Notice they have arson and they do not have arrena. And yet they are claiming that arrena is the 730, but there's no arrena there. Let's come into this Genesis here, and we're going into Scripture for All. We're going into the Greek. I want the Greek. Greek interlinear. Scriptures for All. Go into 12. Go into 5. And she brought forth son, male. But there's arrena, not arrena is not male. Again, that double R is not, although we have it right here, it makes me question this as well. But arrena is about, oh no, that's something else. Arrena is not male. Different word. Arson is male. Arrena is not. And I've already shown, and I believe proven, that they changed. This was 730. This was 730. They changed everything around and lied about the translation. So let's come out of this. Let's remember arson is male, arrena is not. Let's come in. This is a different variation that's online. This is also the Greek. 5, you don't have our nifty little English transcription using our alphabet of the Greek, so you can't place it in the same way, but I'll help you out. To a child, her he should devour. Okay. This is child and it's not male. Any child, male or female. I'm going to put us on pause. Here we go. They did use eagle here and not vulture. Who gave birth to the male? Now that is Arrena. That is the arrena. It is not the arsenic, which would be the male. So this is in fact gave birth to the, that means the sun up there. It could have actually meant originally the sun, arrena, because she was a sun goddess, but she was over their land. It could have meant that. And she was the Hittite variation of Hava, the Hurrian. It's also the spring, but what it's not is the Greek. And it's interesting because women and the women prophets were treated very poorly. All of the sibyls, and the Greeks used the sibyls, the Apollo used the sibyls. All of the prophets and all of the women priestesses had to go through male priestesses. They weren't allowed to just deliver anything on their own. The temples for the female priestesses for Artemis of Ephesus, which was actually a site for Heba, was run by men. They would not let women run it. In fact, they were so erroneous that they called the males the king bees and so they found out it's really queen bees. It's been ridiculous. But let's come in and take a look at this some more. We're going to go down to 16. And her seed. It doesn't say seed here. It says her sperm. That's right. It doesn't say seed. It says sperm. Let's see. Here we go. Look at this and I'll make it easy for you. It's right here. All right. There's the S, and that's a P. That's an A. That's an R. There's an M. This is sperm, okay? Her sperm. So let's go up here and see sperm here. This is the word sperm in Greek. There is the S, there's the P, like pi, there's the E, that's an R, that's an M, and that's an A. You're going to see this in other areas. This is sporus. This is seed. There's the S, that's a P, that's an O, that's an R. So what you want to look at here is the difference between the E, that E, and M, and O, and C. Let's come back here and take a peek again. An S, a P, an E, an R, an M, okay? An A. So this is the sperm. So what are we talking about her sperm and her seed? This is about her teaching. So it went against the woman, it went forth to make war with the rest of her seed. It means the woman is delivering other children. And this is what's found, and I believe it is Isaiah 23 or 54, I believe. We can go in and check. But it says the same kind of thing. It is a teaching and understanding, and what she is delivering is this understanding, not of the beast. It's not a physical birthing, so to speak. It is a spiritual, completely spiritual renaissance and awakening. And what's really funny is that many years ago, when I was going through my separation and my divorce, and my husband was sexually deviant and abusive, I said to my lawyer, because I wanted to have another child and my husband didn't want to, and this is a whole different thing, and I said to my lawyer, who shared some of the deviancy, as it turns out my husband had, I said, you know, I always wanted to have another child, and this is where God began prophesizing to me big time. And I said, you know, God has said to me that I'm going to have this child when I'm like 65, you know, and now I understand what my job is. It's a whole different kind of having a child. Anyway, let's come out of here. Let's look at, so we saw that, and I think I can come out of here now. Oh, we don't have to see that. Let's go out of there. It's garbage. What is this? Oh, that's one on King David. That's a good one. I want you to read this one from the New Yorker, please. In search of King David, videos, YouTube, Scripture for All. Revelations 12. Let's go all the way down here. And I believe it says her seed. I don't know why they translated this as vulture. That's interesting because it goes back to the Galapi Tepe and also the flyers of the vulture, the Nakhabit in Egypt, which is also the Haba, is depicted as a vulture. And that's one of the symbols for Sagittarius. Here we go. Opens the mouthland of her seed. It says, oh, of her that is carried and helps the land of the woman and opens the mouth and drank down the river which is cast out the dragon the mouth of him. Well, okay. But they did translate this up here. They said seed here, but her spermatos. And that is interesting. Now, we're going back into this one. And we're going into Genesis. Genesis 3. Genesis 3. And let me see if I can find it. It's easier for me to find it here first. I'm going to see if we can find seed here in Hebrew. Now, and I will put enmity between thee and her seed, between the woman and between seed of you, and that is Sarah, that is correct, and between seed of her. He shall hurt you, your head. Seed is always a masculine noun in Hebrew. So it could be a woman that's created, because the woman's seed has to be an X chromosome. It could be a woman, but because seed is masculine, it's always referred to as him. Seed of her, and between seed and the woman, and between seed of you, and between seed of her. So no matter how you do it, this is because it's a masculine noun, they're going to have this. And this makes no sense because this is Yuva, which could be Eve sometimes, the word Eve sometimes, which is very weird. So they have seed there. Let's see what this is here. This is going to be Genesis 15. Here we go. 15. And hatred I put between you and between women and between seed. Oh, they use the word sperm here. And between her seed. It's the same sperm. Let's go one more to, and this is very sad because I point this out in my submission. Let's go to the female. It says, and to your husband, your submission, and he will dominate you. That is such an ugly Greek translation. It says here, and unto the woman he said, I will greatly, and it does not say rule over thee. In each case, be means in, whether it's be here. This was prophesied, by the way. Nostradamus prophesied that this would drop Christianity. In all places where you have be beforehand and it's a prefix, look for the word in and you'll see be right before it. And I'm sitting between you and in between seed of her, and you shall hurt him. And I am eating as he's. Let's take a peek. Let's put you on pause. Silly me. You see that be? Well, that is like a prefix. That's a preposition. And it says, in grief. In grief you shall give birth. Sons. That means children. Sons means children. It means sons. We never know. In grief you shall give birth sons. And to man of you, impulse of you, and he shall rule in you. In you means he shall rule in your impulse. And to man of you, listen to how it reads. In grief you shall give birth sons. If you have a group of people and just one of them is male, you have to give it a masculine ending. All right? They will, right. In grief of you. So what they really should have had to make it truly inclusive, they should have had the female bet, and they should have said betum, because it doesn't really mean children. That really does just mean sons. When they mean it to be inclusive, they will give it often, they will give it the female noun and give it the masculine plural ending. In grief you shall give birth to sons, and to man of you, impulse of you. So you're going to give birth to sons, and to man of you, impulse of you, and he shall rule in you. And to man of you, impulse of you, and he shall rule in you. There we go. He's ruling in your desire. He's not ruling over you. And by the way, it says earlier on that a man is to leave his mother and father and is to cleave to his wife. There we go. Here is in you, in grief. There is, and down here, that's it. There are other, there's, oh, here we go. In grief. This is the only place they say over in any of this is really one place here, and this is to fit the rule of law for the Romans and for the Greeks, but it's not part of the Hebrew. And what's amazing is the Hebrew scribes in about the year 1000 looked at what was happening with the Greeks and said, we cannot, when they did their translations, even though it's imperfect, I've got to tell you, this is really, really gutsy that they veered so away from what the Greek was. Really gutsy. Thank you. One last thing. We're going to take a look at how the Greek translation denigrates the role of Sarah. And when we look at, I think it's in Hebrews, I can't remember, Paul's discussion of Abraham's free wife versus Hagar. He uses Hagar by name and calls her, he's the unfree woman, and how his child is not free, so he cannot fully inherit. But Abraham's wife was a free woman, but he never uses her name. It's like this eraser. It's like having a blank face that they're always working with. But let's look at God's promise on 17. First of all, he tells Abraham, whose real name is Abraham. It's Abram, actually, and it's the Greeks who made that become like an I-E sound. They made it turn into an A, and they did it for very political reasons. Anyway, it has to do with the Abba issue. And I will establish my covenant. And Raham means womb, but it's also the name of the female vulture, which was the great womb that births you onwards. So it's a very feminine name. Anyway, I better be quiet. And I will establish my covenant between me and between you, and I will multiply you exceedingly. And Abraham fell upon his face and spoke to him. Now you're going to see something very different, saying, behold, my covenant is with you, and you will be father of a multitude of nations. You will not be called any longer your name Abram. And it was actually Abram, with an I-M and an I in the beginning. But your name will be Abraham. So they put the Raham, which means a woman's womb, and it's masculine in Hebrew. Your name will be Raham, for father of many nations, of many Goyim, I have appointed you. And you're going to see this in Hebrew. Goyim is heathen nations. For father of many Goyim, I have appointed you. And here we go. Abba actually means ancestor. So let's think of it as ancestor of many Goyim nations, I have appointed you. I will increase you exceedingly, and I will establish for nations, and kings from you will come forth, and kings from you will come forth. And you're going to see something very different happen in the Hebrew. And I will establish my covenant between me and between you and between your seed and after you unto their generations. Well, it looks like more than one seed, maybe. Their generations. Isaac, whatever happened here? Well, Abraham didn't follow through. That's what didn't happen. To be God, and with your seed after you, and I will give to you and to your seed after you the land which you sojourn, all the land of Canaan for possession and eternal. That's if he had done it well with Isaac, and had only had Isaac and had only had Sarah. That's not what Abraham did. And I myself will be to them for God. And God said to Abraham, you also be my covenant observed, and your seed after you for their generations. And this is the covenant which you shall observe between me and you. And he talks about being circumcised and all of that, which is a very Egyptian tradition. Now, let's go down to Sarah. Oh, they use the term arson for male here. And for seed, they do say, did we see that? Hold on. What do they say? And your seed? Oh, yeah. They use the word sperm. So let's come down here. And here's the term, and a male child. Here's the pie, a male child. That's interesting. Where's the R? Maybe there's an S. All right, but that's not. Here's male. Interesting. I guess maybe they dropped a P. Oh, well, okay. And that is son. And that is sperm. I know it sounds weird, but when you do gender studies, that's what you do. That is male. Let's come down to her. And God said to Abraham, Sarah, your wife, shall not be called her name Sarai, but Sarah will be her name. And I will bless her and give you from her a child, and I will bless it, and it will be for nations, and kings of nations for him will be. Now it makes it sound like he's going to give her a child, God is going to bless it, and it will be for nations, and kings of nations from him will be. Right? Abraham says, oh, please let it be Ishmael. And God comes back and God says, okay. He prays for Ishmael. God says to Abraham, yes, behold, Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for a covenant eternal, and to his seed after him. And then Ishmael. The covenant of Isaac is the land. Only the land. You're going to see in Hebrew that from Sarah, she will represent God's king, and from her people will come. But Isaac is to have the eternal covenant of that land, but he doesn't get the rest. So Abraham will be a father to Goyim. By the way, Goyim is where the term is where the term joy and goy, which we get from the Greeks, and joy and guy, and gay. We get it originally from the Greeks. So goy is related to gay and joy, and we get this from the Greeks, and it goes into the Latin, and there you go, and guide. Okay, let's come out of me. Sorry, we're running over. Let's come in and take a look at Genesis 17, because it's a different reading. It's the same. I'm giving covenant of me between you and me, and I am increasing you and exceedingly, and falling on Abraham, and he is speaking. And he is falling Abram on face of him, and he is speaking Elohim. That's a feminine noun. Look it, it's not a no up here. To say, I behold covenant of me with you. You become to father throng of nations, and not he shall be called further name of you Abram, and he shall be name of you, he because it's name, and it's Shem is name, becomes name of you Abram, that father of throng of nations. It's Iman, father Iman of nations. Oh dear, this is Haman, or these are different gods. Throng of nations. This is Goyim. So he is father Aman, father Iman, father Goyim of the Goyim. Only Goyim comes from Abraham. And God tells him that he has to be perfect, and he isn't. Let's go on to Sarah. First, and I will establish and I set up covenant of me between me and between you and between seed of you. That's seed of you. There's C again. And after you for generations of them, for covenant of eon, to become of you, to you, for Elohim, there's no O here, and to seed of you after you. Okay. So the covenant is for that land in Canaan. So the land in Canaan is to go to his immediate seed, where they're sojourning to. That land Isaac is not entitled to any other place, just that area, and Abraham will be father to the Goyim in the world, who are worshiping Iman out of Egypt, or Haman. Okay, let's go down to Sarah. Right here. And he has seen Elohim, remember the O is not pronounced as an O, Alim, to Abraham, Sarai, woman of you, not you shall call name of her Sarai. You're not going to call her my princess. She's not yours. That Sarah, name of her. That Sarah, or noble woman, is name of her. She's not yours. And I bless her, because Abraham kept selling her. And I bless her, or threatened to. And I bless her, and moreover, I give from her to you, son. God is going to give Abraham the son, even though she's barren. And I bless her, and she becomes two nations, two Goyim. This is my king. They should have put the dot in there, because it's not kings of. That's not what that means. And she becomes two nations, kings of people from her they shall become. This has nothing to do with Isaac. This is a relationship Sarah's going to do, and Sarah is going to be birthing, and whoever is representing her, which is what I'm doing, she has a totally separate relationship, and we're moving away from what is the Abraham, which is just Goyim, and now you're going to become peoples under God. That's it. All right? And so Abraham falls on his face, and again, and he's asking for Ishmael, and he's begging for Ishmael, and Abraham never prays for Isaac, and Abraham never prays for Sarah, but he hopes and prays for Hagar and Ishmael. And God goes on and tells him about Ishmael, and he says, but covenant of me I shall set up with Isaac, whom she shall give birth for you, Sarah, and to appointed this time in another year. So the covenant for the land is to come through Isaac. May not come through anyone else, and it's just that land. Nothing else. Only that land. That means there's nothing about Tarnish or Tarish or anything else that they're entitled to. Nothing else. That's the only covenant that's there. And Sarah then goes on, and the understanding of Sarah and the Hurrians in that means that she will eventually give birth to, her seed will eventually become an understanding, a true understanding of God. But Abraham has got to play it right. And that's what doesn't happen. So, with that in mind, let's come out of this. And I think I'm almost done here. Let's go to 20 for a moment. And I'm wondering what the Greek is going to say. Oh, no, excuse me, it's 21. And Yahweh, he visited Sarah as which he said, and he's doing Yahweh for Sarah, which he spoke. And she becoming pregnant, and she's giving birth. Abraham has just sold his very old woman into slavery again. She is not having sex with Abraham. He's tried to get rid of her, and God makes Sarah pregnant anyway. Let's see what the Greek has said. That's why I said Jesus is not God's only begotten son. There was also Isaac. Where's the rest? Oh, no, it says the same thing. And the Lord visited Sarah as he said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he spoke. But the other part wasn't right. He did not, they did not acknowledge that she would be the king and that peoples would come from her. Let's see what the next verse says. Yeah. Okay. Well, folks, hopefully this is the last Bible study I'm going to do before we move on. Oh, there's one on Nori. The Nori that's found in Genesis 8 in the Hebrew, Nori, when God destroys through the flood. And it's not Noah, just like it's not Elohim. And Na is actually a feminine seed. God says, looks at the situation and laments, not that God has destroyed the wicked, diabolical people, but what happened to the animal life and everything else. And there's a turning point which you've turned, that if you're destroying the earth more and you're causing more pain and suffering than if the earth were allowed to be destroyed. And so the souls of the animals have a place to be, but it's the souls of the human being that don't. So God did not give you this respite because of humanity or because of Jesus. When Jesus died on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." If you don't know what you're doing, but everything else you know, you must be honest about. If you're not honest, you can't be forgiven for your dishonesties. You have to come out with those. So you come out with your known mistakes and you come out with your dishonesties. And he cannot cover you for anything else. The other thing he said, even if your faith does not teach you correctly, like the Episcopal Church has got a completely wicked teaching about human sexuality and about gender. We know that a man has a Y chromosome and women only have two X. We know that X chromosomes are like 3 times the size of Y chromosomes. There is absolutely no way that we don't know what is a man and what is a woman. We're not interested in your opinion. There's so many erroneous things that are being taught. And they did that on purpose. As men realized women had made certain gains, men began to say, oh, now there's no difference. And they began to take everything away from women again. By the way, they did that, I guess they started that about 2500 BC, 2000 BC. First, they took things away from women and made it into men. But then positions that were women, like priestesses for Artemis of Ephesus, or other forms of priestesses in other places, men would castrate themselves and get dressed up in women's clothing. And straight men let them do that, so that it eroded power away from women. What little power women had, it eroded it away from them. And they've done the same thing ever since they found out that women were more equal, that we had the DNA, which happened more than 100 years ago. They understood the DNA, they understood the egg and the sperm. And as that came up, they began this erosion of everything again. So men in sports, transgender men in sports, Fiona Hill going in as a woman that's really a man at the president's thing. Men, straight men, have given men license, homosexual men and transgender men, license to do this in order to take things away from women. When women have fought so hard, and when God is behind them. And then, of course, they even take our words and our paradigms. There you go. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I had to look up the thing about sperm. I know that sounds weird. It sounds really weird to talk about a woman's sperm. And so, good night. Go in and take a look at Scripture for All and look at that section that goes from Isaiah 50 to 60. And Isaiah 60, you clearly have the Magdala. And the daughter of Zion is not the same as Jerusalem. It really isn't. And I've discussed this before. So I better say good night. Bye.